When it's red, we're recording.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to IntelliKea. I'm Dr. Rusty Barrier, and
I'm Dr. Tricia Seymour, and we're happy that you're here tonight for our advanced metaphysics class on
living in the divine flow. What does it mean to be in divine flow? How do I know if I'm in the flow of source or not? What are the signs that I'm in the flow? This talk will cover the divine flow and how you live in it daily. Great. How are we going to do that?
Yeah, we're going to figure that out here in the next few minutes.
In the flow.
We're going to be in the flow in the next few minutes.
We've all heard about flow states throughout our lifetimes. I was an athlete, so we understand that when we're in the zone as an athlete, it tends to be a flow state. One of the markers of it is your brain is not thinking about everything that you're doing. You are literally just being moved along as if you are a raft on the river. Right? Go ahead.
Did you want to do a centering or not?
Centering? Sure.
We're going to do a centering now.
I think I need one.
I think so. I think that'd be a good thing.
All right.
To get present just for a few minutes here.
Just close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale slowly through your mouth. And again, take a deep breath. And as you exhale, just feel the day dropping away from you. All the stress, all the tension flowing away. And again, take a deep breath, breathing in peace. And exhale and just relax. This is a time to be present here. A time to allow yourself to simply be open, be willing, be free. And now when you're ready, just allow your eyes to open again and come fully back here. All right, divine flow.
I feel more in the flow already. So for me, I think of the flow as synchronicities. Think about a time in your life where you just happen to be in the right place and meet the right person, or show up and do something and someone was really appreciated because you were the right person that they needed to meet. Those kind of synchronicities are all part of flow. And so when we talk about divine flow, we talk about how do you live from a space where things are easier. Because when we're in divine flow, things are easier. You're not in control. You're not trying to force it. You're not trying to push it. When you're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time, it's like Rusty said, you're going down the river, and it's a peaceful, gentle river, right? It's when you aren't in the flow, it feels more like the rapids. When you feel like you're fighting against the current, feel like you're about to go underwater, and that really isn't a good place to stay. That's a hard place to live.
It puts you into fight or flight is the main thing that does. Mm-hmm. And as I said earlier, to be in that flow state is also to trust. Right? One of the things that I will say, and it may seem a little harsh, but if you are trying to force your life, if you think you have to control everything around you, you're not trusting the universe to have your back. Okay? And that's probably for me the biggest thing for me that I realized when I slid out of flow state, is that I am now trying to run my life. Unfortunately, we live in a culture and a society that teaches us you have to accomplish this, you have to accomplish this. Literally, today's children, from the time almost that they can talk, are being told, here's this marker, here's, you've got to get into this school, you've got to get this grade, you've got to go to this, you've got to do this, and suddenly it's all about structure. Flow is very unstructured, yet extremely structured at the same time.
So flow for me as well is also when you're able to look back at your life and go, oh, that's why I learned that skill. Oh, that's why I met that person years later. Oh, that's why I had that job. You know, and putting the pieces together. That's being in flow as well. So those are signs that you're there. Those are signs that it's working. When you're not in flow, as you said, it's just a struggle.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle, and life just seems hard. And so it's about how do you get there. For us, and I'll speak for you, for us, I think it is because of the connection we have to source. One of the things I think that gets in the way a lot is ourself, our egos. Last time we talked about how do you know if it's your ego or if it is
Your higher self.
is it a bug?
Yes.
Or if it's a bug.
It was a bug. It was not my higher self or an ego, it was a higher bug.
If it's your higher self or if it's your ego making the decisions in your life. And the clearer channel you can be for source. So imagine that we all have a connection to oneness or to source. It's a hose. And some hoses are really little and they're all mucked up. And some hoses are really big like fire hose and it's very clear. And the clearer you can be with your connection to oneness, your connection to source, it's easier to get out of the way and trust the flow.
One of the ways to begin tapping into the flow state for yourself is to take time to calm yourself down each day. Meditation is a good one. But I don't necessarily mean just, I'm talking about allowing yourself to drop into a meditative state. That can be going for a walk, all right? And for me, that's one of the best ways to get back into flow if I fall out, or actually when I fall out. This is a given, we will move in and out of it. For me, to just get out into nature. We have this preserve that backs up to our neighborhood where we live, and I can just walk out there, walk into that beautiful bunch of pecans that's there, and just be quiet. I hear the birds, I feel the grass, I feel the breeze, right? And it's just allowing to connect. And even if it's a person-to-person connection, be present, bring yourself back. Another way to do this is with your breath, all right? A lot of you know breath is really kind of my thing. That's what I do for a private practice. But what's happened is we've gotten to where we breathe very, very shallowly, right? Matter of fact, a lot of us are only breathing up here in our chest, right? And it's funny, I know that there was a time where people would talk, you should breathe up here and only up here, because you didn't want to have a Buddha belly, heaven forbid, that's got to be tight down here. No, you need to drop that breath to your abdomen. Breathe with your diaphragm, that. Right, and just keep the flow going. The flow of the universe is also the flow of your breath when you are in rhythm.
And clearing away some of that stuff is therapy can do that. Obviously, you know that we're both therapists, so psychotherapy can do that. All kinds of personal growth things can help you clear that hose so the flow is better. I'm going to give you a couple examples of things and how source works and keeps you in the flow. So the truth is, all of us are there.
Right.
We just fight it sometimes. So being in flow state is natural. It's not like you have to achieve it somehow. It's about letting go and falling back and being in that state, because it's very natural.
Matter of fact, the harder you work to stay in the flow state, the less likely you are to get there.
Right. So some of the examples I would give you is, again, when I was in my 30s, I was hearing guidance, like a voice in my head. And I would hear guidance that would say, go here, go there, whatever. And I would just go and not question or ask why. And then I'd meet somebody. Sometimes I knew why I was going, sometimes I didn't. And so just showing up. And sometimes you'll show up in an event or an activity and you'll go, oh, that's why I was there. And sometimes it's just for the experience of the activity, because you don't know that the information you got from that talk, training, class will help you 5 years from now. You have no idea. Right. So it's just going with that guidance of where to go and what to do, and not having to have all the answers.
And that's, remember I said in the very beginning, trust. As you are hearing that guidance, trust it, follow through on it, right? Even if it sounds like the most bizarre thing that you could ever have heard to go do, trust it. There's a reason for it. There's something that is pushing you down the river of life to get there. A good example, about 27 years ago, in a few weeks, I had just moved into a new apartment, my own apartment. I got just literally that day gotten out of the relationship, got into an apartment. I was tired, I was grungy, I was sweaty, I was grumpy, and my guides kept going, there's a talk at Unity tonight, it's Ruth Montgomery, you should go. I don't wanna. You really want to go? No, I don't. I'm tired, I'm dirty, I'm grumpy. You really want to go? You'll have friends there. You don't need to be alone tonight. Just go. No. Go. All right.
Slap you upside the head.
I have learned that when the universe is talking to me, first they talk, then they slap, then they go to the 2x4 if I'm really stubborn, and then the railroad tie if I'm really stubborn, and I've learned I really don't like the last two. So I try to get it on the slightly stubborn stage. So I said, okay, took a shower, went to this talk. Now I knew who Ruth Montgomery was, and if you don't, Ruth Montgomery was two things. In the 60s, she was a correspondent, White House correspondent in the Kennedy White House, right? The second one was, she is who introduced the world to the concept of walk-ins. And she wrote a book called Strangers Among Us back in the 70s. I had read that book as a young man, and it opened my eyes to lots of things about me. So I'm going, okay, I'll go hear Ruth. This is a good thing. I'll be with friends. This is a good thing. So here I go marching to Unity. If you've never been to the big Unity down on Forest Lane, and back in the 90s, it sat probably 2,500 people if you filled the floor and the balcony.
We're going to do the short version of this.
Okay. Anyway, so there I was in all this crowd, sitting there listening to Ruth.
So I too had heard to go to this event. I had no freaking idea who this lady was. I knew absolutely no one in this audience. I had no friends that were attending. I had no idea why I was going to this church for this talk. None. Someone I knew had handed me a flyer and said, you might want to check this out. But I heard loud and clear in my head with my own intuition, go. You're going to meet someone. Go. You're going to meet someone. Go. And I didn't fight. I'm not as stubborn most of the time.
Most of the time.
When it comes to Spirit's guidance, I'm not as stubborn. I won't say all the time about everything. Needless to say, that's where we met. So the surprise is, again, neither of us, our left brains, our logical mind, neither of us had a reason to go to this event.
No.
But we heard the flow. And the flow sometimes asks you to do things that seem ridiculous or silly or what? And you just go and do it.
Right.
And the more you do those little things, itty bitty little things, the more you hear, the more you do, you go. And like I said, the more you trust, sometimes you meet people who have an effect on your life years later. Sometimes you get information or pieces in your journey of, oh wow, I haven't thought like that. That help you down the road. And sometimes you just make connections with someone that's going to become a friend or a partner, or you gain skills that you never thought you needed until later, and you go, wow, I can't imagine that I never understood why I did blah blah. I took that job, now I know.
And sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Right? Sometimes you're told, go down this street because there's someone stuck in a muck. Literally, this happened to us when we lived in Denver. We were driving on, we were going to where we knew to go, and I literally heard, turn right. So I turned right, and there was an elderly gentleman in his electric wheelchair stuck in a pothole. Could not get out. Stopped, pushed him out. No, nothing for me, nothing. He had been stuck there for about 15 minutes. No one had helped him. Okay, that's being in flow. It's not always about you. And actually, the more you're in the flow, you realize it's never about you. It's about Source moving through you. It's about becoming the servant. Yes, we grow. Yes, we learn. But ultimately, we are what we are, and that is the servant to everyone else on the planet. That's about oneness. The flow is about oneness. It's about connection. It's about recognizing heart to heart that we are each the same being and that we're here to walk each other home. That's why we get in the flow. That's why the flow will stay through us. The more we realize that connection to heart, and folks, that is the longest 18-inch journey you will ever make in your life, is from here to here. All right? It's also the hardest 18-inch journey you'll ever make in your life, because our ego wants us up here. Source wants us here. Live in flow. Live in heart. Be present. Be kind, not only to others, but yourself. These are the secrets of flow.
So another recent example of that is, again, as I said, when you start paying attention to the little ones, the little things, bigger things come as you move forward. Bigger pieces, bigger events that just synchronicities that seem to happen. And one of those is that we were in a position where one of us needed to go get a day job because we were starting a new online education business, and I was the one that got the day job, and I had no idea why I was taking this job. None, other than the money.
She was a little irritated at me that I wasn't going to take it.
I know, but I was taking the job for the money, and he stayed home and worked to get the business off the ground. I learned some great things, met some nice people, still had no idea why I had this job. Year later, our business is off the ground and doing well. I don't need to keep the job. I end the job. 3 years later, I realized why I had that job. I learned a skill set that allowed us to grow this business that we had just created that I had no idea that I would need. And then we were able to sell that part of the business for a good chunk of money because I took a job for a year. I listened to Source. I listened to where I needed to be. In the meantime, I made some great friends. I was able to help coach and support them on their journeys, and it was just an amazing experience. But I would never have known that had I not listened and just gone and taken a job that just seemed like I had no idea why I'm doing this. This is just where I need to be.
The other interesting thing about living in the flow is you will feel extraordinarily vulnerable, and you are, because you're open, but you are so phenomenally protected by the flow itself you can't imagine. All right? This center came about that way. We were going to open this center right before COVID. Okay? None of us had a clue this was coming, right? I don't think I heard a single psychic out there saying, oh, there's about to be a pandemic tomorrow, you know, unless you count Bill Gates as a psychic.
And we had found a place.
We literally were going in to sign the lease the next day. That next day, Dallas says we're shutting down. I went, not signing that lease. And they go, oh, it'll be over in a week or two. Guidance is saying, nuh-uh. And if I'm too slow, they just showed me right up front. Right? So we went back. We sat. We waited 2.5 years.
Because literally, had we signed the lease, we would have been on the hook financially for the 3 years, and nobody would have ever been able to come to it because we were locked down.
Because you couldn't.
Right, or you were too afraid to come out.
Right.
So we had to listen. So when you listen and you hear that little voice inside that tells you to do something or to not do something or whatever, you have to pay attention. And when you pay attention in the little things every day, and you start to see the synchronicities that happen, And you look back in your own life and you go, oh, now I see the whole pattern of my life. It just makes it easier to do that every day. So with this center, 2.5 years later, we're both sitting at home going, is it time? And we both felt like it was time to open the center now. Everybody was ready.
So, of course, we live on the Plano-Allen line, all right? So
North of the center.
North of the center.
For those that don't know.
Yeah. And so we were looking in the Plano-Allen area, and we're lazy, we don't want to drive very far, for space. And we just couldn't find it. And then a mutual friend reached out to Trish and said, hey, there's this sound healing lady down here in Richardson.
And
you ought to go hear her.
And I saw her space online. I'm thinking that's a really small space, because all she had pictures of course was her
sound
space.
room.
And I'm like, I can't have a healing, I can't do a center in that space. That wouldn't even hold very many people. And so I was like, no. Again, not listening, right? No.
Arguing. Not that you're ever stubborn.
Just sometimes. We kept looking up by us, and we kept looking all around, and kept looking. And finally, I just kept hearing, call her. So I did. And we came in for a sound bath.
Hang on. And in the process of looking, there was one thing that I knew that I would never sign a lease for again, because we had had with our other business, and that was it's called triple net. And that's where you're not just paying your rent, you're paying the property taxes for the landlord, you're paying any repairs that need to be done to the air conditioning, and then so we never knew what our rent would be. And I said, I will not do that. Everything up there is triple net. So now,
so we come here and we go to a sound bath, and we walk in the door, and this place was a mess. I mean, they've been using it as a storage unit for the last 2.5 years.
everything out in our lobby was cubicles.
So it was all, they had a tech place in here to begin with.
And they hadn't cleaned it in 3 years, from what I could tell.
So it's cubicles. Every one of the offices were filled to the brim. You couldn't walk in them with just stuff.
Old used furniture.
It was just a mess. And so we walked in the door and went, nah, this isn't it.
You can't do that.
Can't do that. My
Nah.
brain is like, nah, I can't go here. This is too bad. And we went to the sound bath. And after the sound bath, we were in such a different space. We got out of our way. And the sound room, she had made a sanctuary in her little sound room there. And so after the sound bath, we looked at each other and went, ah, crap, this is it.
We could actually see what it would be.
We could see it. It's like Spirit then in our vision moved the furniture out of the way and made it look like it's going to look. And we literally got the vision of what it was going to be. So because we listened and we found the right place, we called the landlord the next day and said, we'd like to rent the suite 200, and they said, which room? And we said, oh no, the whole suite. You want the whole suite? For what, a day? No. For a month? No. At least a year, if not longer. And they said, come see us tomorrow. The best news was, I had wanted to have some furniture already that we could use, and a lot of the chairs and stuff that we have all are from the landlord. They didn't want to have to move them, so they let us use a lot of the furniture. You didn't want triple net.
I didn't want triple net. Folks, we don't even have to pay electric here.
We just have flat rent.
rent.
So everything that we had wanted came together, but only when we listened to guidance.
And what was even more of a synchronicity is the building owner, who's on the other end of the building, by the way, wanted a healing center here for years and had tried to do it, and he couldn't pull it off. So when we said that's what we want, he was like, oh. And you will still see him and his wife. They'll wander through here. I swear to God, I think they wait till we're not here sometimes to just come hang out in the energy.
So we have a meditation garden,
Right.
which we had wanted some greenery, and literally it was everything that Spirit had put on our mind was right here. Had we argued, had I continued to argue, had we both continued to argue and tried to find something farther up north, we would have missed this opportunity.
Right.
So when you find yourself arguing with yourself or with guidance, that's usually a sign that you need to stop that and listen.
Take a deep
breath and do what it is that guidance is telling you to do. And as Rusty said, at first it's going to be little things until you get to trust the process. It's going to be, nope, don't go home, go in that coffee shop. just because you're gonna need to be there, and it's just listening. And maybe nothing happens when you're in the coffee shop. Maybe you overhear a conversation that just makes you smile. It doesn't have to be anything big. But when you are given the little things and you can trust the small things, then Source opens up the bigger things for you.
Go to this little hole-in-the-wall Thai place. No. Go to this little hole in the wall. Okay. So we're sitting in this little Thai place down in Oak Lawn, and we're just having dinner, and all of a sudden, this about 4-year-old little Buddha, little Oriental kid, comes running up to our table, looks at us and goes, first you're little, then you're big, then you're little again, gone.
That's the other part of it, is that when you get guided to go somewhere, pay attention.
Yeah, when you're there,
Notice.
pay attention.
Notice
Be
the
there.
people, be fully present. Notice the people that are there, be fully present to the smells, the tastes, the people, the energy, and just, you don't have to make sense out of it. That's not required. Just go.
Just go.
Because you just never know what's going to happen or how that particular instance will play out somewhere down the road. And that's truly being in the flow. When you don't have to make sense out of it in this moment, and you allow it to just happen. And then later you look back and go, wow, I never could have even planned it that well. I could never even plan that.
And please don't hear us in this saying, don't set goals, don't have things that you work towards, because you can have all of that. It's still important. It keeps your mind focused, but don't be so focused on designing your life that you forget to live it and to let Spirit move you through it. Anything else?
It can be a both and rather than an either or,
Right.
definitely.
It is always both and.
Yeah. So there's lots and lots, and if you think back now on your own life and think about times where you had those synchronicities happen, where you were in the right place or someone else was in the right place, where you heard something, and again, it can be very small, but if you're present to the experience, that's what we're talking about. And that usually, when you're there and it happens, you're kind of like, wow, that was cool. Wow, how interesting. Well, I never would have thought I would have met blah blah in that space, or that I would have heard that saying, or had that experience, or that feeling, or that emotion.
Or that you'd have wandered down a dark alley in Australia and been given some clues to what your cards meant.
Yeah, I know, that happened too. So it is about allowing Source to move through you. Allowing God, Source, being, whatever you want to call it, to live through you and move you. There is always a bigger picture that you can't see. And allow that bigger picture to play out. There's always a bigger picture that you don't see. Trust the bigger picture. Trust
the process.
The process. Allow it to play out in your life. But yes, there's been a lot of those synchronicities.
And there's been, every one of us on this planet has them. We just miss them a lot of times because we're so busy thinking and worrying and not breathing.
And not being present.
And not being present.
To the opportunities. And the opportunities to, like you said, help other people, the opportunities to see what's right in front of you. If you're so worried about the destination, whether that's, I gotta get somewhere because I have an appointment, or I've gotta get somewhere in my life because I have these goals. If you're so focused on the destination, you miss the opportunities along the path. And flow, the flow of Source points that out to you. They point out the small little opportunities to see and to be of service. And the more you do that, the more your life works. Yep, I think that's it.
All right, we're going to stop
So
for a few moments.
thank you very much.